guys, welcome to another episode of Jodi Dancers Talks. Today we've got Gopal with us, also known as D Still Music. Please make sure you follow him on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. He's got an amazing voice and also has his own record label called Red Side Records. And finally, make sure you check out his new track, Summer Lovin'. It is
awesome.
Absolutely awesome. So hi Gopal.
Hello, thank you for having me, guys.
No problem.
No problem at all. I just want to really get straight into it. I think I noticed, first of all, for your birthday fundraiser on Facebook, you wanted to donate towards a charity that researches in eczema. Firstly, why did you pick that charity, really?
Yeah, so National Eczema Society is an organisation that really supports those who suffer from eczema. I think the stigma behind the name eczema has been just an itch, and I suppose it's because so many people suffer from eczema, even if it's for a day, a week, a month, or in my case, most of my life, that it's not understood to an extent that people understand really what people go through. And the National Eczema Society is one of those organisations that really support people from setting up support groups, fundraising just for research, and for trials, pushing out the right information to progressing treatment for eczema sufferers. So it's an organisation that's really close to me in terms of just from what I go through as a personal experience, and for a lot of people, from mild to severe cases. So yeah, I thought it would be a nice way. And I've seen a lot of people for their birthdays set up fundraising, whether it's different causes from what they've experienced in their lives. And eczema was something that since 3 years old I've suffered with, so it's something that was really close to me.
So speaking about a stigma, and you said there's a stigma attached in terms of it's just an itch. Like from my own personal experience, people said stop scratching, don't scratch, right? But it's not as easy as that. So I want to ask you, because you've suffered with eczema for a lot longer, do you think the stigma sort of being broken down as you've grew up with it, or do you think it's still there?
Oh, it's definitely still there. It's like with anything, it's how well do you understand something. So if you don't understand a condition, especially if you've suffered, I don't mean suffering as in, it's really brought you down for a long period. I'm talking eczema can happen to anyone, and they're still researching as to why it occurs in the human body or on the skin. So even if you have a patch of eczema, which a lot of people have come to me and said, oh, I've had eczema before. All right, and that instant connection of, okay, so how have you felt when you've had it? Where have you had eczema before? How long has it lasted for? And then when they say, after a week of like using hydrocortisone or a steroid-based cream, it's gone. And for me, that's like, I'm really happy to hear that such a simple treatment that a GP can prescribe you has treated them. But for me, from 3 years old, my parents tried absolutely everything to try and heal. And I say heal because, if you ask any medical professional, they'll say that there's no cure for eczema. So the stigma kind of comes around that. It's understanding the actual effect of eczema in certain cases. So if it's mild, it might not be there for all your life.
Yeah. It
could come back here and there, but it might not affect your day-to-day, how you live life. But if it's someone for like me, and at the moment it's not severe because it's under control with treatment, but when it's severe, it's something that is life-changing. You cannot live a normal life, and by normal I mean if you have goals, or if you just want to go to work or do something that you're passionate about, you can't do those things in a normal way. You can't go about it in a normal way. So that stigma for me is still there. I think probably a little less thanks to social media, more research, and better treatments. But it's definitely still there.
So I just want to break down what you said into two things. The first one was in terms of the stigma slightly going away. Do you think that's because of the awareness that's raised around eczema? And the second question was, when you said heal, because there is, like, scientifically, there is no cure.
Yeah.
Like for me, and I think for a lot of other eczema sufferers, including yourself as well, when you look up for research, you see that as cures to loads of sort of illnesses, diseases, etc. But for eczema, there is no cure. And does that affect you mentally, knowing that there may never be a cure?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I think that's part of the issues, actually. Yeah, you're right. Like, knowing that there isn't a cure at the moment takes away some of the hope of when you go through rough patches in eczema, and sufferers will know, but for non-sufferers, you will go through phases where it's great and sometimes where it's really bad. And there are all types of things that affect your eczema on a day-to-day basis, on a long-term basis. You can try loads of things, from putting things on your skin, taking things orally, medication-wise, or things which have been researched over years and years, natural, whatnot. But when someone says, and especially when medical professionals say that there isn't a cure for it, yeah, it really does. It does beat hard, because you're always hoping for it to go away. I'm 31 now, and so I've had it since I was 3 years old, and I think quite early on, around the time when I was doing my GCSEs, I think I came to terms with, I might just have it for the rest of my life. Again, another stigma is that you'll have eczema when you're young and it will go away.
Yeah, that's a big one.
You're waiting for that day. It's almost like you've grown up. You know you're going to stop growing at some point. You don't. I haven't grown out of it, so it's still there. So I've learned to live with it. You get to a point, in my personal experience, you get to a point where you just live with it. How do you manage it? And actually, if you come to terms with that, both mentally and physically, it's a lot easier to deal with. It's never easy, but it's easier to deal with. But at the same time, there's new treatments coming out. There's new ways of naturally dealing with effects, or having to deal with it on a daily basis. And I think it's making it easier.
Yeah,
for sure.
And you said, like, obviously you had it from the age of 3, and as you progress in growing up, you've come to terms with it. How was that journey, and was there a specific point? I know you said GCSEs, but like after that, did it still think, okay, that's it now, I am going to live with it? Like, how was that journey for you?
Tough, really tough. Because not only are you dealing with your skin growing old, as in growing old with you, you're also growing up as well. So yes, GCSEs was, when I was 15, 16, it was a difficult time, but also I made the decision 6 years ago, and when you turn 25, at a point you go, where am I in life? It's a normal thing to do. I actually decided to go what is known as cold turkey on medications, so steroid medications. So some people might know that, like, using steroid creams or even orally tablets is a real common prescription that's given to eczema sufferers, especially when you go through bad periods. And I actually just went, I'm done with this. Every time I keep using steroid creams, it just keeps coming back even worse. And yes, my skin was looking great. It was under control, but I was constantly using steroid creams, and they were getting stronger and stronger. Now, the problem with strong steroid creams is that it ends up thinning your skin. And if you go back to basics, your skin is your most important organ in your body. Doesn't matter what's inside, like, it does matter, but your skin is such a big part of everything that comes in and everything comes out. And if we think about it on that basis, I just had to get away from creams, because I was done with the constant, yes, it feels great one day, and the next day it's absolute fire on my skin. So 6 years ago, I made that decision. That was tough again from GCSEs, doing exams, having that stress, that pressure. Then going through a real different phase of my life where I'm working. I'm trying to build a foundation. And making that decision was tough. And I probably went through, both physically and mentally, probably went through like one of the hardest periods of my life for about 2 to 3 years. Probably mentally more than physically, because physically you get quite used to how things feel in your own skin, but mentally that was probably the most like draining. That was probably the most hard hitting in my life. So yeah, there's peaks and troughs.
Sorry,
Yeah.
just one quick thing. When with the peaks and troughs, like for me, for example, I think sometimes you dread the summer period because, say, if you had a flare up on your arms and you're young, you wouldn't want to wear t-shirts, and obviously then that's a good thing because you're getting hotter and itchy, and it's a vicious cycle. How would you relate to that in terms of the troughs? Did you suffer something similar?
Yeah, I did. Seasonal effects of weather changes on your skin's major for me. Summer, I actually a little differently actually to you, but summer I love the heat. A lot of people can't actually take the heat and understand that because it's hot, sweaty, you get prickly heat, the feeling on your skin. But I was okay. I've thankfully I've been okay in summer. Opposed to that, in winter, when the weather's really cold, it's really drying on your skin. I'm known for taking a little pot of cream with me everywhere I go. It's part of my armory now. Like that is what I carry around because especially in winter, it's really tough. So I actually found that summer wasn't too bad for me. I actually enjoyed it. I think I got over the being conscious of my skin very quickly, very, very quickly. From young, like I got over that really quickly, especially at school. I used to wear short sleeves through winter because I just wanted to be free.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be tied down to covering my skin all the time. Whether that was good or bad, I don't know, but I tried to build myself mentally as much as possible. So what doesn't matter what anyone said to me, what they thought, it just didn't affect me. That's easy for me. That was my defense in a way. But for a lot of people, that's hard to do because you not only are you mentally are you having to deal with a routine that works to keep your skin stable, but also deal with what people think. When people look at you, how they react, behavioral. That kind of communication interaction is a real difficult thing to do when you've got eczema or if you've got a skin condition. For me, though, I tried my best to be strong from when I was really young. So I tried my best, but I can understand in summer, wearing a full sleeve t-shirts or shirts or coats just to keep you away from the sun is works for some people, and that's what people have to do.
Yeah.
And then you said obviously mentally it was difficult. What type of experiences did you go through then in that period of time?
So during school I went through the period of, is this ever going to go away? And then later on, when I was about 25, I went through the period of, this is kind of going back to music, but I was so focused with my music that that's one of the reasons why I kept going back to steroid creams, because it was keeping my skin stable. I wouldn't have to worry about it and I'd carry on with normal life.
Yeah.
as normal as it was. I was in a band at that point, and we were, you know, we were doing good in terms of progression wise and our focus, but it was every single day. I would go to work. As soon as I get home from work, I'd have half an hour to shower, eat, and then I'd go to the studio. That was my life, 5 to 6 days a week. But that was my drive. Like, that's what I wanted to do. But at the same time, I was neglecting myself.
Yeah.
So, you know, changes happened. That kind of neglect on your body really, if it doesn't take an effect on your physical being, it really takes an effect on your mental being. So for me, it was quite a dark period. I felt quite lonely. I felt like I was never going to get a break, and that was probably the toughest thing to really come to terms with. But with time, with treatment and the right kind of treatment, that was right for me, because like 6 years running now, I'm no steroid creams, or, you know, I've been through what is known as TSW, topical steroid withdrawal symptoms, which is quite a tough thing to go through as well. That's really built me up mentally. If I ever went through a rough patch like that again, I know that mentally it's actually harder to deal with than it is physically. So that's something I have to take care of. And I think that's what a lot of people are quite dismissive of as well. That yes, physically eczema is a real tough thing to deal with, but how does that affect your moods? You know, you're not always going to be happy. Actually, for a lot of the time through that rough period, I was sad, I was angry, I was frustrated. The only help I had was from my family and friends. I'm grateful for it, but actually I think what probably could have helped me more is if I had third party help. So maybe counseling, maybe just someone to talk to that had experiences that were similar, or to deal with that emotional side. So I think, again, going back to the National Eczema Society, they have that support group of providing people who can give you that support. I think that's really necessary.
Yeah. So, like, obviously you have your good days, your bad days. Sometimes bad days can be really bad. Like, you don't want to wake up in the morning, you feel sore and stiff. But for me, sometimes, not all the time, like Bhangra was a good outlet in terms of, I'll get out there, I'd forget it for a little while. And I want to bring that back to you, because like the music you produce, like you've got a really good voice. And I'm not just saying that because you're on here. Like, people hear Summer Loving, it sounds good and it sounds happy. And I want to ask, how has music helped you as well? Because it's not always like eczema, like I said, it's peaks and troughs. It's never always negative. There are positive moments. So I'm guessing your music was a positive moment. How did that help?
Like you said, it's an escape. So when you go and do a Bhangra, or when you go and perform, or when you go to train, it's an escape. It takes your mind off it.
Yeah.
You know, I would notice that when my mind is not on my skin, which when it's bad, it's 100%. You know, mentally it drains you. You're tired all the time because you're thinking of the itch or how to stop the itch. So music for me was that escape. Exactly. It was finding an outlet to imagining good times, or the good times that you've had. So I write my own songs. I would usually write about love, because for me, it's that feeling that really gave me comfort when my skin was bad. So music for me was that escape. And I understood probably, back in like when I was like 21 to about 25, when I was really focused with my music with the band, where I actually understood what an outlet like music or dance can actually do for a person. Like anything, we can get caught up in things, especially when you're driven or you're focused. But to have an escape and when it's something that you're so passionate about, it really helps. And actually, I could say, I'm sure there's research gone into it, but music was like some sort of cure as well. You know, if it wasn't physically, it was mentally. So when people look for outlets of, you know, how do I find a cure for something? Sometimes it's just something that you just enjoy. And music it's always been something that I've enjoyed doing.
And just to sort of conclude, I know you spoke about the self-consciousness about eczema and the fact that you've had a supportive family and friends. Like for me as well, when I go to work, I've got supportive colleagues that never mention, like subconsciously you're thinking, oh, my skin's dry today, I don't feel right, I don't feel good. But when you go into work or when you go see your family, how important is it that you have people around you that support you regardless? Like my wife supports me. Now, sometimes I come down, face is dry, she won't say nothing, and it's nice to be sort of normal. Like, how important is it to have supportive people around you?
Really important. It's probably the foundation of support. So people who just understand that every day isn't going to be the same is probably the most important thing to have as support. Also, like you said, going to work, going to a workplace, and you're seeing those people every day. For a lot of people, just like you do with your family. Helping them understand that every day is different for you as well, and the things that you have to do to just be comfortable. I think it helps them understand that, okay, like, you know, you're having a bad skin day, you know, like it's that kind of thing. Like, fine, they might treat you a little bit more sensitively, or they might go, okay, they've got a bit more on their plate. That kind of understanding really, really helps. And I think it's just building that that bubble around you, not a bubble that will give you false hope, you know, from people, but just that understanding is really, really important. I'm lucky to have family and friends that really help me. I've got a fiance who's really supportive. You know, really understands the times that I've had bad patches, and I'm having a really good time at the moment because I'm on medication that's really helping me. But if it ever comes back one day, and it probably will, you know, how will I deal with it? How will people around me deal with it? Because it's not just a physical thing; it's definitely an emotional thing as well. So yeah, having that support network around you is vital.
Thank you. So I just want to conclude here. Is there anything else that you'd like to say? I know it's difficult to sort of summarize it in a sentence or two, but what are sort of your like pro tips to sort of help people manage with their eczema? Because you never know, this might actually help someone else.
Yeah, I think dealing with stress is not just for eczema, but for most conditions is a real important thing. We have stress in everything. It's not just going to work. It could be trying to achieve your goals. It could be just getting simple tasks done. It can be stressful for people. Dealing with stress is such a big thing. Stress aggravates my eczema. So finding ways or finding systems or finding just different ways of dealing with situations to reduce your stress is a big thing. And I think we need to focus more on that, especially if you go to work and it's a stressful environment. You need more support from people at work, or you know, people who have the kind of HR. You know, there's all different types of people that can have influences. So I think stress is one thing that we really need to manage better. I also think that there are so many treatments out there. Try to stick to one.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. It really isn't easy. And I feel like I'm a test bunny, to be honest. I feel like I've tested so many things, like not just Western medicine, you know, like I've been through Ayurvedic, homeopathy, acupuncture, which I was telling my fiance about acupuncture. And, you know, a lot of people wouldn't think of acupuncture and eczema or a skin condition. There are so many treatments out there. You've got to find something that really helps you. And if it doesn't help you in the first few days or first week or two, keep at it, because it might just work. Our bodies are a bit like machines and they do take time to repair. And that comes on to my third bit of advice. And more recently in lockdown, I've actually focused on it a lot more. But what you eat and what you drink is probably one of the biggest things. If there's any kind of research out there that I've read or listened to online, it's about gut health, the health of your organs, and what we put inside, food, water, alcohol, anything, whatever you put in, the effect of that on your skin is like you'll see it next day. So drinking lots of water, having your greens and vegetables, going back to basics is a real important thing. And actually, it takes time, but you'll see. It's my guarantee now. I think that people really will see the differences if we go back to basics of like processed foods and going natural. I think that's going to be the way forward. And I think a lot of the research and the progressions that medicine's taken, it's going down the natural route now. So it makes sense to, when you're at home, to eat and drink as cleanly as possible.
Yeah, like I'd second that. Like I've noticed that as soon as I've had more green juices, more fruit, more veg, it has helped clear up my skin. Obviously, not the first or second day. Long term, it will. And I just want to thank you for your time, Gopal. I know it isn't necessarily easy speaking about eczema and mental health, and I just want to thank you for your time. For everyone watching at home, make sure you support the National Eczema Society the best you can. And also, all of Gopal's details for his record label, his music page for Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube will be in the comments section. So make sure you give it a like and a follow. Thanks for your time. Thanks for watching. And that's the end of this episode.